The 1970s. Vietnam was ending, gas prices were soaring, and on the streets of America, a revolution was brewing. Not with guns or protest, but with motorcycles that would change the industry forever. In 1969, Honda fired the first shot with their CB750. The British motorcycle industry never saw it coming. By 1975, the Japanese weren't just making motorcycles. They were redefining what was possible on two wheels. American and European manufacturers were forced to either innovate or die. Today, we're looking at 15 motorcycles that didn't just define the 1970s, they shaped the future of motorcycling itself. These aren't just old bikes. These machines established dynasties, sparked rivalries, and created legends that still influence the motorcycles we ride today. Some of you lived through this era. You might have owned one of these bikes, or wished you did. Others might disagree with this list, and that's okay. Motorcycle history, like the bikes themselves, isn't always a smooth ride. The Honda CB750 wasn't just a motorcycle, it was Japan's declaration of war on the European bike industry. With its transverse-mounted inline-4 engine producing 67 horsepower at 8,000 RPMs, this machine rewrote the rules of what a production motorcycle could be. The specifications tell the story. 736cc air-cooled engine, front disc brake, a first for a production motorcycle, electric starter, and a 5-speed transmission, all for $1,495, less than many inferior British bikes at the time. The CB750's reliability was perhaps its most revolutionary feature. While British twins were leaving oil stains on driveways across America, the CB750 just kept running. Its overhead camshaft design, combined with careful engineering and precise manufacturing tolerances, meant this bike could go thousands of miles without major service, something unheard of in 1969. The bike's 124 mile-per-hour top speed, 13.2-second quarter-mile time, and maintenance-free valve train made it the perfect machine for both commuting and weekend racing. If the CB750 was Japan's opening shot, the Z1 was its knockout punch. Kawasaki took Honda's formula and supersized it with a 903cc DOHC engine producing 82 horsepower. The numbers were staggering: 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4.2 seconds, quarter mile in 12.4 seconds, and a top speed of 132 miles per hour. The Z1's engine was a masterpiece of engineering, featuring double overhead cams when most bikes still used push rods. The bike's 8.5 to 1 compression ratio, 4 28mm Mikuni carburetors, and 5-speed transmission created a power plant that was both powerful and reliable. Yes, it had handling issues at high speeds, but that just added to its mystique. Willie G. Davidson's creation wasn't just a motorcycle, it was Harley's answer to the changing times. The Superglide combined the FL frame and 74 cubic inch shovelhead engine with the XL Sportster's front end. The result was a 1200cc machine that could actually handle corners while still delivering that unmistakable Harley rumble and torque. The technical specs included a 4-speed transmission, belt-driven primary, and chain final drive. The engine produced 65 horsepower, but more importantly, it delivered 70 pound-feet of torque at just 3,800 RPMs. The Superglide reminded everyone that low-end grunt had its place too. If you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Share this video with your riding buddies, especially the ones who were there when these bikes were new. Now, let's continue our journey through the 1970s. The RD350 proved that sometimes less is more. This 347cc two-stroke terror weighed just 351 pounds wet and produced 39 horsepower, enough to embarrass many bigger bikes. The Reed valve induction system, 7-port cylinders, and carefully tuned expansion chambers created a power band that was both exciting and usable. What made the RD350 special wasn't just its performance. At $999, it offered performance that could match bikes costing twice as much. The 6-speed transmission, disc front brake, and auto-lube oil injection system made it practical enough for daily use, while the 14.5-second quarter-mile times made it a weekend warrior's dream. BMW shocked everyone when they decided to get sporty with the R90S. The air-cooled Boxer twin produced 67 horsepower at 7,000 RPMs. Not earth-shattering numbers, but the bike's 898cc engine delivered power with typical German precision. The Del Orto pumper carburetors, 5-speed transmission, and shaft drive created a package that could cruise at 100 miles per hour all day long. But it was the details that set the R90S apart. The distinctive smoke silver to black fade paint job, the small handlebar-mounted fairing, and the dual-disc brakes weren't just cosmetic touches. They were functional improvements that worked together to create one of the first true sport touring motorcycles. The Commando 850 was British engineering's last great stand. The 828cc parallel twin engine, pushing 60 horsepower through a 4-speed gearbox, was a dinosaur by 1973 standards, but Norton's isolastic mounting system, which effectively isolated the engine's vibration from the frame, made this ancient design feel surprisingly modern. The performance numbers were still impressive: 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4.9 seconds and a top speed of 115 miles per hour. The real story was in the handling. The Commando's frame geometry, combined with its relatively light 420-pound weight, made it one of the best handling bikes of its era. The 748cc L-twin engine produced 72 horsepower at 9,000 RPMs, but it was the desmodromic valve system that made it special. While other manufacturers relied on valve springs, Ducati used mechanical rockers to both open and close the valves, allowing for higher RPMs and more precise valve control. The bike weighed just 419 pounds dry and featured a massive 10-gallon fuel tank, Del Orto carburetors, and clip-on handlebars. This was a race bike with lights, and its success in endurance racing proved it. Suzuki's GT750 proved that two-stroke and touring bike were mutually exclusive terms. The 738cc 3-cylinder engine produced 67 horsepower, but more importantly, it was water-cooled, a first for a production motorcycle. The cooling system added weight, bringing the bike to 507 pounds wet, but it also allowed for reliable low-stress performance. The technical specifications were impressive for the time: 3 32mm Mikuni carburetors, 5-speed transmission, and electric start. The bike could cruise at 100 miles per hour while delivering surprisingly good fuel economy for a two-stroke. Yes, it smoked like a mosquito fogger, and the handling was best described as stately. The T140 represented everything great and terrible about British motorcycles. The 744cc parallel twin engine, producing 49 horsepower at 6,500 RPMs, was essentially a modernized version of a 1937 design. But that engine, with its 360-degree crankshaft and twin-amal carburetors, produced a sound and feel that Japanese engineers couldn't replicate. The 5-speed transmission, finally, and front disc brake brought the Bonneville into the modern era. Sort of. The bike weighed 395 pounds dry and could reach 115 miles per hour when properly tuned. The real problem wasn't performance, it was reliability. Honda's GL1000 wasn't just a new motorcycle, it was a completely new concept. The 999cc liquid-cooled flat-4 engine produced 80 horsepower and enough torque to pull a small house. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. The shaft drive, comfortable riding position, and extensive weather protection created the luxury touring bike. The engine served as a stress member of the frame, lowering the center of gravity. The starter motor doubled as a generator to save space. The fuel tank was actually under the seat for better weight distribution. What looked like a fuel tank was actually a storage compartment. We're 2/3 through our list, and the comment section is probably on fire by now. Don't forget to share your memories of these bikes below, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and notification bell to catch more content like this. Now, let's finish strong with our final 5 motorcycles. The Le Mans 850 was Italian engineering at its finest and most stubborn. The 844cc V-twin engine mounted longitudinally in the frame and produced 71 horsepower at 7,300 RPMs. The engine's crankshaft rotation did cause a distinctive lean at stops, a characteristic that either charmed or annoyed riders. With triple disc brakes, a 5-speed transmission, and a dry weight of 466 pounds, the Le Mans could handle both alpine passes and city streets with equal aplomb. The RE5 was either brilliant or insane, just depending on who you ask. The 497cc Wankel rotary engine produced 62 horsepower at 6,500 RPMs, delivered through a 5-speed transmission. The engineering was fascinating: liquid cooling, automated oil injection, and complex carburation systems all working together. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. The bike weighed 507 pounds wet, too heavy for a 500cc machine. Yet it represents a fascinating what-if moment in motorcycle history. What if rotary engines had caught on? The H2 earned its Widowmaker nickname honestly. The 748cc 3-cylinder 2-stroke engine produced 74 horsepower at 6,800 RPMs, capable of pushing the bike to 120 miles per hour. The engine would go from gentle to explosive at 5,500 RPMs, often catching inexperienced riders off guard. The technical specs were impressive. 3 30mm Mikuni carburetors, 5-speed transmission, and a weight of just 423 pounds wet. The front disc brake was adequate when new but could quickly fade. The XLCR was Harley's attempt to build an American cafe racer, and they almost succeeded. The 997cc Sportster-based engine produced 61 horsepower, delivered through a 4-speed transmission. But the numbers reveal the compromise. At 492 pounds dry, it was too heavy to be a true cafe racer. The handling couldn't match contemporary European sports bikes, yet its rarity and unique styling have made it one of the most collectible Harleys of the era. And the Jota was the fastest production motorcycle of its time. Period. The 981cc triple produced 90 horsepower at 7,500 RPMs, good for a genuine 140 mile/hour top speed. The engine was essentially a race mill detuned for street use. The bike specifications read like a racer's wish list: triple Del Orto carburetors, close ratio 5-speed transmission, and triple disc brakes. At 505 pounds dry, it wasn't light, but the weight contributed to high-speed stability. The 120-degree crankshaft timing created a distinctive exhaust note that still turns heads today. Well, that's it, guys. Maybe you still have that bike tucked away in your garage. Maybe you sold it years ago and regret it every time you see one at a bike show. Or maybe you're still hunting for that exact model you couldn't afford back then. Look around today and you'll see echoes of these bikes everywhere. Modern retro bikes try to capture their magic, but we know the truth. There was something special about motorcycling in the 70s that can't be replicated. We didn't just ride these motorcycles, we lived with them. We learned from them, and in many ways, they helped shape who we became. Share your stories in the comments below, and tell us about the bike you had, the one you wanted, or the one that got away. And don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, keep those memories alive and keep the rubber side down.